I'm so lucky. I got shoes on my feet, I'm so lucky. Got a roof over my head, I'm lucky. I got water to drink, I'm so lucky. Got light in my eyes, I'm so lucky. I got love in my life, I'm so lucky. I got fate on my side, I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky, I'm so lucky. I do what I love every day. I always make a way out of no way. In this life you give more than you take. All my life I'll give my heart away. Cause I know it'll come back 3 times. I won't trade money for a peace of mind. Always keep my eyes on the prize. Sunrise, look up to the sky. Got air in my lungs, I'm so lucky. I got shoes on my feet, I'm so lucky. Got a roof over my head, I'm lucky. I got water to drink, I'm so lucky. Got light in my eyes, I'm so lucky. I got love in my life, I'm so lucky. I got fate on my side, I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. We are glad to see you all here tonight. My name is Olivia. I am one of the 5 staff who works with the Open Road Fund. This is the last workshop. Okay. This is the last workshop of the Black Wealth Community Education Series of 2024. All of our workshops are recorded and live and made available on our YouTube channel at Nexus Community Partners. We go to the next slide. Nexus Community Partners is a nonprofit organization. We are located in St. Paul, Minnesota. Our mission is to build more engaged and powerful communities of color by supporting community building initiatives that expand community wealth and foster social and human capital. The Open Road Fund is stewarded by Nexus Community Partners and funded by the Bush Foundation. The program awards $50,000 grants to individuals of African descent whose ancestors were enslaved as a result of the Mid-Atlantic slave trade. This effort is to serve as a catalyst for Black community wealth building. The fund serves Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. And we can go to the next one. The Open Road Fund has 5 wealth building themes. The themes are financial well-being, housing and shelter, economic ownership and power, education, and health and healing. We do not do this work alone. The Open Road Fund collaborates and consults with Community Advisory Committee, who have been integral to the work. Advisory Council members represent all 3 regions that the fund serves: Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. The Open Road Fund also consults with Community Partner Research and Action, who's helped guide our evaluation and research process to determine the measure and success and impact of the 8-year-long Black Wealth Community Building Initiative. The Open Road Fund has 5 wealth building themes that were co-developed through community surveys and in partnership with Research and Action, Nexus Community Partner staff, Open Road Fund Advisory Committee members. We offer this definition for health and healing. So I'm going to address a couple of housekeeping things, go over our agenda for tonight, and then I'll introduce our moderator. Okay. This is the space where Blackness is centered. It's a safe space where self-care is honored. So if you feel the need to step away or take a break during the session, please do so. We will reserve time at the end for Q&A. And the questions will be taken through the quick Q&A section at the bottom of your screen on the menu. So if you hover over the bottom, you'll see the record button, and then right next to it, it says Q&A, and you can pop your questions in there. So the agenda for you want to go back? I can go over the agenda. Thank you. So we're going to do the welcome interview, which is what we're doing right now. And then I'm going to introduce the facilitator. You guys are going to watch a video excerpt. We will have a meditation moment, and then our guest panelist introductions. Then we'll have the panel discussion, the Q&A. We will go over resources and next steps, send out a survey link, and then we'll be all good to go. And so our wonderful moderator for tonight is Talaya Jones. And she is not only a member of the Open Road Fund Advisory Committee, but Talaya is a creative entrepreneur. Her brand, The Latest Touch Empire, crafts inspirational attire. Talaya is passionate about being helpful to others and helping them develop self-love practices. She enjoys motivational speaking and believes in finding maximum results with minimum confusion. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to her to moderate for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening. Our hope for tonight is for everyone to walk away with more clarity towards your health and healing, and that you gain some tools and perspective necessary for your journey towards a better life and lifestyle that allows you to practice wellness and healing to prosper in all areas of your lives. The video clip we are about to show is presented by sociologist Dr. Joy DeGruy Leary. She is an author of the Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, America's Legacy of Enduring Injury and Healing. The clip is about 10 minutes. It examines the multi-generational impact of enslavement and adaptive survival behaviors. The clip starts with her talking about 9/11, and then she will go into her discussion on explaining about post-traumatic slave syndrome.
But during that time, there were people at Ground Zero, for example, like my niece. And there were people who watched it on television. And then there were people in other countries who heard about it. So there are varying levels of understanding around this trauma that happened in the United States. There were people at Ground Zero, were there, saw folks falling out the sky, got videotape footage of it, watched it on television, invited folks over and drank beer. Not traumatized. No trauma. There were people maybe in another country, in Brazil, saw it on television, in psychotherapy right now, can't get on planes, on medication, and people talk softly to them twice a week. So the variance in terms of those who are traumatized by a traumatic event and those who are not, we're unique as individuals. Everybody's not traumatized by a traumatic event, whether it's direct or not. But when we start talking about chattel slavery, we're not talking about one trauma. We're not talking about a specific event. We're talking about generations of trauma with no intervention. Based on what I know about sugar plantations, tobacco, and the Caribbean, what I know about American chattel slavery and the plantations there, does anyone right now ever recall mental health assistance to slaves? Anybody remember sending in the therapist after I sold off your son, daughter, raped folks? At any point? Never. Second question. After slavery was officially over, now you're free. Anybody remember any therapy then? We know it's been rough, it's been deep for you, it's been difficult. We're going to do a little group therapy. Anybody remember that? That would be no. Number 3, after slavery officially ended, both in the States, in the Caribbean, the British ended, do you remember whether or not trauma continued? Did the trauma continue for people of African descent? I need to know. Okay, so now let's do the math. Hundreds of years of trauma, no treatment. Freed, more trauma, no treatment. What do you do the math? Do you think there may be residual impacts of that trauma? Of course there is. It didn't end, friends, and it hasn't ended yet. So I think on one point, African people and people of African descent are extremely resilient. Matter of fact, I think we're a miracle. Far be it for us to pathologize or to look and cast this idea of weak and sick people. Oh, on the contrary, I'm profoundly resilient because we've done everything we've done thus far with no help, with not even the ability to have this discussion. As though it were possible, we escaped injury in all those hundreds of years and the years that follow. So this kind of journey I'm going to take you on is going to be one that really gives a perspective on what this trauma was, what it looks like, and clinically, what is post-traumatic stress disorder? What does it look like? Now, let me give you a little snapshot. We'll get into it in more depth a little later. But post-traumatic stress disorder, if in fact you are diagnosed with that, again, remember, direct or indirect trauma, here are some of the symptoms. A feeling of foreshortened future. Now, what does that mean? A feeling, well, you're not going to live long. How many of you are running into young people that don't believe they're going to make it past their 20s? Feeling of foreshortened future, exaggerated startle response, outbursts of anger, difficulty falling or staying asleep, hypervigilance, right? These are symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. This is like DSM stuff, Diagnostic Statistical Manual Mental Disorders. It's in there. And there's a whole listing of all these symptoms. Now, I want to roll it back so you can understand what the transmission theory is, because I'm going to talk about transmission. So how does a person that's been traumatized by post-traumatic, literally has a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder, and can we, if we are logical and we are reasonable people, assume that a fair number of Africans had to have had post-traumatic stress disorder? You think? I'm not talking about us, I'm talking about them. Untreated, though, right? Okay, so now let's do the math. Mom, who saw dad sold or sister raped, has post-traumatic stress disorder. Still mom, though, right? Only mom now has outbursts of anger, feeling of foreshortened future, difficulty falling or staying asleep, hypervigilance. That would be mom. Now, Johnny or Mary or Shaquisha did not have the original trauma. But what are they learning? This is called social learning theory. What am I normalizing? Exaggerated startle response, outbursts of anger. Are you following me? So I didn't have to be traumatized. Now, the other thing is, do you think Johnny and Mary got traumatized too? Do you see? So what happens in your environment, you learn from the significant others in your environment. And if they're broken, guess what you're going to be? You're learning from broken people. And you're normalizing that behavior. And then it becomes, years later, 2008, that's their culture. That's just the way they are. That's their culture. So there's poison in the cookies, right? But how are you going to tease out that poison? That means you have to look at the etiology of the behavior, which is what I spent many years doing. And it's not rocket science. This is not deep. Like I said, this is not required that, someone has, it's just common sense. How many of you in the room think you can cook? Come on now, I know it's a strange place. You all have the oddest food in the world. I'm trying to tell you that now. Those of you that know how to cook, who taught you how to cook? Mom, dad, family. Who you think taught them? Hello, social learning theory. You learn from those in your environment. And if they couldn't cook, the likelihood is you can't either. Okay, so there's things that we don't question them. This is what goes in the curry. What are you talking about? This is how you make curry. Well, how you know? Because that's the way my mother made it. Well, maybe, she didn't get the recipe right. Actually, I wrote Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, the book, which is here. The book is called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, America's Legacy of Enduring Injury and Healing. I recently have written a study guide, which is being edited now. But the reason why I wrote the book is really to put a name to what I was looking at. I started to look at behaviors in African people and people of African descent. A long time, people ask me all the time, I just was interviewed by ABC, and they wanted to know, where did this come from? It came from growing up black. No, there's nothing deep there. I grew up looking at black folks and wondering why we behaved the way we did. Very little had to do with white people. Very little. I was looking at black people and I wanted to understand our behavior. I am 50 years old and I remember looking at people who were, growing up in South Central Los Angeles. That's where I grew up. My parents are from the South, from Louisiana and from Belize. And one of the things that I started to notice are certain behaviors that black people engaged in that I started realizing, not just African Americans, African Caribbean people, I came here, heard the same thing, behaviors around what we look like. Like, for example, I would hear people, and most people here, white or black or wherever you are in the spectrum, you've seen the behavior and wondered about it. I know you have because I wondered about it. Well, you have black people that aren't black. How many people have met black people that actually aren't black? Now, this is an interesting phenomenon. These are black people that will tell you before, first of all, they certainly look black to me. They look black, but they don't say they're black. I've got quite a bit of Indian in me. Did I mention that a lot of my family are from, all of a sudden there's something else, right? And you're looking going, sure could have fooled me, you look black to me. Right? Now, this would be something that I could ignore if it stopped when I was a child in South Central, but it didn't. You could hear it in rap music today. Same behavior. Matter of fact, the rap videos, they just need to clone the same girl, right? I could draw her right now, what she looks like. The little wavy hair, and, she's black, but not too black. Okay, and what is that about? What is its etiology and why does it persist? That means that it's an intracultural phenomenon that's being passed along through generations. But why? What is this self-loathing that I see in contemporary black folks? I'm not going back to slavery. I'm talking about today, who hate and despise the reflection in the mirror. That's what I wanted to know. So that's what led me on my journey.
Okay.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah.
Get to the root of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Before I introduce our panelists for tonight, let's take a moment to recenter ourselves, to be aware of any tension we need to release in our bodies. There are some prompts on the screen. Feel free to use them or practice your own self-care. We'll take about 1 minute to practice this. I want to invite you to close your eyes, lower your gauge, and pay attention to your posture. We're going to do the 4x4 method. 4 breaths in. I am safe. Hold. I am not alone. Breathe out. Rest. In. Breath in. I am resilient. Whatever it is you want to release. Breathe out. I am not alone. Rest. Again. Breathe in. I am healing. Hold. Breathe out. I am not broken. Rest. Thank you. Okay, thank you. I am going to introduce Symee Battles. Symee is a CNA and college student. 19-year-old Symee Battles is a certified nursing assistant. She is currently in her second year of college and her major is not yet declared. Next panelist, Callie Flournoy-Reiser, genealogist and family historian. Callie Flournoy-Reiser is an avid genealogist, family historian, owner of Heritage International Connection and the former president of the Afro-American and Genealogy Society. Since childhood, she had the desire to know her history and her origin. In 1974, she visited her paternal grandmother, Adlener Flournoy, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes, that's right. There you go.
Thank you. Who was 85 at the time and lived in Pullman, Michigan. This visit was the beginning of a genealogy journey that spanned 2 decades in which Callie interviewed all the elders who were the grandchildren of the last generation enslaved. Callie was able to trace 7 generations born from 1875 to 1990. Callie knows Black people face a unique challenge when tracing their lineage. Heritage International Connection, through resources and guidance, help ease the frustration and start the intergenerational healing. Welcome, Callie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Sierra Carter with Zen Bin and Heal Minneapolis, founder. Sierra Carter is a spiritual entrepreneur, a radical self-care facilitator, music executive, and your most grounded homegirl. As the founder of the Zen Bin, she has developed community and safe spaces across the Twin Cities with one intention in mind: to support people holistically as they pursue holistic healing and transformation. Currently, Sierra operates 3 spaces across the metro: Heal Minneapolis, a faith-based, plant-based cafe; Holy Ground, a donation-based holistic wellness space; and Fifth Element, a hip-hop community safe space. Welcome, Sierra. Hey. Before I open the panel with questions, I just want to remind all the panelists to keep the answers to about 2-3 minutes max so that all of us can be able to share. This first question is for all of you. Now you can volunteer yourself or I can pick someone. The first question is, can you share with us what led you to this path and how what you do contributes to health and healing? Would anyone like to volunteer themselves?
Okay. Well, I guess I can start. Well, what led me to the path of doing my family history is when I became a parent, and I wanted to pass down information to my children about their, their ancestors, their relatives, because we had moved to Minnesota, and at this time, things was we were kind of spattered as family. So I just wanted to pass down some information, and over the years, I guess it's been healthy because the children, they know their heritage, they know generations, and so I think that's a healing part for them. So that's that's the most important thing that we can pass on, is who we are. And so that's how my healing started, passing it to the children.
Thank you. Next.
I can go next.
Thank you.
I think, one of the reasons I wanted to be a CNA was kind of just to help people. I saw that was, a big thing, even in the nursing homes or, helping, especially in my community. There's not a lot of brown faces. When you go into a clinic, the people who always bring you, or ask you questions, how are you feeling? I haven't seen a brown nurse in a minute. It's usually, and if I do, it's like maybe every once in a while. I also saw that definitely in the nursing home, it more so was a lot of immigrants, and that's not a bad thing, but like when you see that there were only per se white people in the nursing homes, it was interesting because when you saw the care compared to some of the residents who were colored, it was, Black people It was very interesting and almost sad because they would still care for them, but at the same time, the level of care was not the same.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Thank you.
Peace, everyone. What kickstarted my healing journey? I would say when I was 21, I got married really, really young, and found myself in a very toxic, abusive marriage. And then I also had irregular cycles. So that kind of kickstarted me trying to understand holistically how to nourish myself, find myself, love myself, but also like really kind of correct naturally some of those symptoms I was experiencing at that time. So that's kind of what kickstarted my journey.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Callie, talk about the duality of healing and genealogy research, the joy and the pain of it.
Well, it's a long journey. It's a hard journey. It's fun when you meet new family members. And like I said, I got started when I was a young mother in early 20s, and I would interview or get in touch with family members that um, my grandmother told me about or had mentioned as we met. Um, would tell me about the stories of the family and what we were doing. And when we left a certain, we were from, my dad was born in Arkansas. And so then he moved to Missouri where he met my mother. Um, During that time, a lot of stuff happened. Um, a lot of trauma stuff happened in the family. Uh, and I still don't know if the healing have began or end, to be honest with you. And that's been a few years ago. I think, as we do the genealogy and know the family and know the history, it seemed to kind of get piled up on each other without healing. And we get the anger and we don't know what's going on with us. Um, uh, and so that is one of the things that I just kept searching and kept finding things that would make sense. Um, Genealogy is just another way of saying that, you know, you just find your people. That was the first thing that slavery did when they were freed. It was find the people. And for some reason, after my grandmother talked to me, told me about her father, that was on the wall. I saw a picture on the wall, and I asked Grandma, "Who was that?" She said it was her father. And after that, she just opened up and just talked about the family. I started taking notes and recording her over the years, and just by talking with her, I was able to locate about 3 to 4 generations. And so that was one of the things that was very powerful in terms of trying to get things done, and find the people. And we lived in different states, so that was kind of hard. Um, Nowadays, it's a little bit different because, you have the media, um, the internet and stuff. And so that helps a lot too. Today, back then, when you need to do research, you went to the library. Now you can just lay in the bed and do your research. Back then, when you wanted to call and find out some information from a family member, the cost, there was long distance cost. Now is free. So, I really encourage the young folks to pick up that task and try to, connect with as many family members, because as time passes, it becomes a jewel to know that. Or, a lot of times I spent my last money trying to make that happen, fill out another form, make a long distance call, make a trip. And so doing the genealogy journey, it was very satisfying, but it was very painful because you got a chance to witness from them talking to you some of their traumas, okay, or some of the things that happened to the family that it has something to do with, the Jim Crow laws, or something to do with, things that happen in society that wasn't very kind to people that look like us. And so I just kept going. Um, and I'm not, um, so the traumas the traumas are there, and it's very real. It goes from one generation to another,
Sure. I
you
appreciate
know.
it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
That's deep. Thank you. Sierra, can you share with us about how the mind, body, and spirit works in connection to each other?
Totally. So, how I look at things is that we are whole people. So, looking at us as holistic beings is kind of understanding how we think, how we feel, and what we see. So, a lot of times people don't understand that some of the trauma that we experience manifests physically in the body. So, understanding that sometimes your back pain might not just be because you slept wrong. It could actually be you're feeling tension in that area based on something that you've experienced. So, I just think it's super interesting how you can study like a symptom or an outcome and kind of unpack it and look at it from a holistic perspective, really understanding that. I think looking at ourselves as physical beings, we're obviously having this superhuman experience that's tough sometimes, but also paying attention to your mental health. I think sometimes people can just keep going, but not check in with self. So that's a big thing. And then also just what are we a part of? And that's kind of what I consider as our spiritual health. It's like, what's your purpose? What's your reason for being? And how they all kind of work together is you just finding your alignment, whatever that looks like for you, of just understanding what it takes for you to feel mentally healthy, physically healthy, and then spiritually healthy. And I think, yeah, I think everybody should have some sort of spiritual practice. It doesn't have to look the same. And yeah, I would say that's kind of my answer for that.
Thank you. Ooh, appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Yeah.
Symee, what interested you to pursue the field of CNA, and what has been your experience, barriers or positive experience with being a young Black woman in the healthcare field?
I think the main thing that interested me was my pastor actually was a nurse. So she, when she explained and talking about what she does and, her healthcare side, I was like, okay, so maybe I can go to this class and, help these people because, as at a nursing home, they're in their last stages or sometimes they're recovering. So it was nice to, to be like, do you believe in God or like, do you believe in something, or just to help take care of them before, they pass away. And sometimes it was nice to see that, some people didn't have people come in and they were just alone when, when they passed or when they're in their stages. And that's like really moved me to want to be there. The hardest part would be they treat not the care is not always the best because of how little time we have and the how much we have to do because each person can have up to like 8 to 9 residents. It's hard to do thorough care when you have to do so much. So I think that was like the biggest barrier.
Wow. Appreciate that. Thank you. Callie, what are some ways
Mhm.
folks can start to piece together their own origins and resources?
It's been, like I said, a nice journey. And it's been a while since I've done the research. What I'm enjoying right now is the fruit of the labor. I have as you know, we all have like 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents. We have 16 great-great-grandparents, and we have 32 great-great-great. Okay. In my journey, okay, I have I have found all of them. Okay. My 4 grandparents, I got all of their information, know where they're buried. Being ancestor is very important to me because they came before us and they were the ones that we're standing on their shoulders. So I really respect what they have done, and I try to share that with the young folks. So I have my 8, and I'm always asking my children and young folks that I talk to about, oh, what's your grandmother's name? Or not just grandma, but what is her name and what is her birth date? And, it's important for them to know that there's some information that comes with them. I wanted to share that, but when a person is interviewing, it's nice to have like a chart to keep track because there's so much information out there. And if you don't keep track of you lose it. Here's the information here where I created this chart where you have your mom and dad, your grandmother, grandfather, your siblings, your children, and your grandchildren on one sheet. By filling out that form gives you so much information. It tells you, and you need to know all of the birthdays. You need to know if they're living, where were they born? If they're dead, do they know where about, which cemetery? So that information is very good when you're doing the research. Listing all of your siblings, having their birthdays, having the children, grandchildren, you end up with a family chart like this one here. This chart came from a single family filling the pages. The top part is my great grandparents, great great grandparents that was enslaved. Okay. They had 8 children, and it just branched out. And when I look back at all of the things that happened with collecting the information, was going to funerals, going to weddings when the family would call and say, hey, someone is getting married, oh, somebody passed. When I would go with my form, and I would have all family members, and most of them was new. I would have them to fill it out. And once they fill it out, then I would come back and add it to the big family tree. Okay. And as time went on, like I said, it was 500. It's more than that now because this is an old chart. But you have to put work into it. You have to put energy into it. And again, the benefits is that I was able to get my DNA taken and was able to go and visit where Atlina was originated from, which was Cameroon. Okay. And so I was able to do that. That's right up in the mid, they call that Center Africa. Just found out, yes, right there, and just found out that the first couple that was the first generation or the last generation that was enslaved. My great great grandmother is from a place called Bioko Island. And so we study finding information. It's never something that just stops because history is you just discover yourself. And once you discover yourself, nobody can take anything from you. It's a piece of joy. It's some freedom, okay, that comes with it. The only thing that's missing, we don't know how to heal the trauma, but the we can do inside. There is a saying, and this is when I first read it, I just loved it. It says, if an egg is broken by outside force, life ends. If broken by inside force, life begins. We had a broken from the outside. So life to the world was, we're the end, okay? But we've proved them wrong. And, I appreciate that we are getting stronger as a people, and we are, looking towards Africa, and we're looking towards being who we are. I remember the first time I got my DNA results, and I was walking someplace, and somebody said, "Oh, where are you from?" And the first thing that came out of my mind, out of my mouth, was Cameroon. And I thought about it. I said, damn, that was the first time I'd ever been able to connect myself to the homeland. And that is a hell of a feeling. And we've gotten DNA in all of them. And some people say it costs a lot of money, but there's nothing worth the knowing where you're from. You can put, when somebody used to say Africa, it was like, oh, that's, anywhere over there, whatever. But now that's home. When something happens in Africa, the first thing that I look at is my homeland. I look at, Cameroon. On my dad's side is Nigeria. And so I've been to Cameroon twice, and I will be going to Nigeria. Yoruba, it's the ethnic group there. And so, it's just interesting to know who you are. And that's that came, far, and doing a lot of work. So whoever picks up that habit, or hopefully, you have a family historian in your family that enjoys doing, because you have to enjoy it, because you need patience. You need to, you know, understand what you're doing, because they change things. They change the name of the spelling. They don't spell things right. And so as you're going through the record, you see the games that's being played to keep us divided even more, and, it's just like, it keeps going. The trauma just keeps going,
Thank you. Thank you.
because
That is just like, I
yes,
appreciate that. That is a wealth of knowledge, and it has to feel good at the same time to have all of that with you. Those memories
yes,
of
it
the
is.
ancestors. I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
Thank
Symee,
you. Thank you.
tell us, what has been your experience with medical practitioners and providers when it comes to treating Black patients who may be living with chronic pain or pain management, or treatment in general?
I think it's a little different because in the nursing home, they only come in like the one time, like, and you have general nurses there. But since I usually worked PM shifts, usually if there was something wrong and they couldn't give them medication, because depending on how much they're taking or what their condition is, it honestly was not the best, because you would have to wait till the next day. And especially on weekends, at least in the facility I was working at, you would have to wait like that weekend, because they don't have the primary doctors till like Monday or Tuesday is when they come in and they make their rounds, which I thought was like, well, don't you have people on call that can come in? But they don't. And unfortunately, I don't know how that works specifically, but it would be the LPNs or the people who are in charge of the medicine that would give what they can, but usually that ends up being like Tylenol or something, you know, simple you'd get at the store. It's nothing that can really help them, especially because we had some patients who had high anxiety or who had like fits, like if they're yelling. Well, we can't do much about that because especially if a resident is very physical, sometimes they have physical residents, but we can't do anything about that because say like you get hit or something happens, we can't do anything. We're still supposed to care for the patient, but at the same time, you can't put yourself in harm's way. So it's really hard to combat that.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate that. And Sierra, will you explain a holistic approach to care, to what care looks like, and will you explain some alternative methods and practices we can use to move towards a more holistic approach of healing?
For sure. So holistic care is you just holistically looking and assessing yourself from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet. And that's emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, financially. Methods for kind of getting yourself in order is just to slow down and take inventory of how you feel. How are you thinking? What are you thinking about? What are you spending a lot of your time with? How's your finances? That's something to holistically look at as well, but just looking at every single aspect of yourself. What foods are you putting in your body? Because once you start to learn patterns, like one thing you might eat bread, and every time you eat bread, you get a headache. Slowing down to really understand yourself and see, okay, wow, my head hurts. I'm noticing these things. It's just kind of like that's holistic care. And I think, in my opinion, just you being mindful of all of you versus just waiting for a symptom to manifest and trying to treat it or putting a band-aid on the issue. I think, and that goes physically from an owie or, something deep in trauma in the body and in your soul.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
This has been so good.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Okay, I have some general questions I want to ask. And anyone can answer these questions. When it comes to Black joy, some of the things that come across my mind are having a lot of money, going on a vacation, and acceptance for a new job, school, housing, etc. When you think of Black joy, what comes to mind for you, and how can we begin to share this joy in our communities? Who would like to share?
I think I can start. I think Black joy kind of more so around like peace, like in your life where you're not having to struggle for what, like what you're gonna find to eat the next day, shelter. Um, it was only a couple of years ago did we move into a nicer house, with my mom and my family, but it's nice to know that, because we did end up being in the shelter when I was younger, but that you don't have to worry about those things and how important those things are because my mom did work at the shelters and we did, have to go there every once in a while and we did volunteer and it was so interesting to see the big impact it is to have something of your own and to know that you own it and that it's yours without having someone to come and take it from you. I also think that, having peace to be able to go to school without having to worry about what's going to happen when you get home or having to worry about those things. I think that's what I think of when I think of Black joy.
Yeah, I immediately want to like personalize what Black joy means to me because I think it's very specific for everyone. Everyone has their own way to define it and experience it. These days, my Black joy comes from hanging out with my nephew. He's the coolest 16-year-old and he's driving, so that's fun for me. For him to just be on the highway with him, letting him practice, as well as being in my garden. Just I work a lot, so kind of just that moment where it's just me and God outside doing something that is just completely not related to a human is really healthy for me. And just calling my mom every day. She's my lifeline. So just that's another thing that just brings so much joy to me is hearing her voice and hearing her be happy and healthy and love me and be proud of me. It's not nothing like a daily affirmation from your mom.
Right.
Well, today something happened to me that I hadn't experienced. I went to the dentist this morning and I knew the young lady that was there was from Cameroon and she was there to have her work on my mouth. gave me such a joy and peaceful feeling, because I knew that she wasn't going to criticize my jacked up teeth, or I felt comfortable. And I love being able to be around my people, which we don't get a chance to be around that much. Um, and so I enjoy the connection with certain people that have some joy. I mean, some uh, same kind of uh, you know. I know that you, Sarir, you said you were plant-based, and that is something I have been working on for the last 2 years. It hasn't been easy, but I have keep trying. It's I'm about 70-30, I guess. Every now and then, once or twice a week, I fall off, you know, and I want to eat something that I'm used to. So I get joy out of running into people that we're on the same path, and we're trying to do better for what trying to learn who we are, trying to do our bodies, um, try to, I live at the fact that we go walking sometimes, and make it around the lake without, you know, saying, I'm not going to make it. Let me turn around and go back. Just enjoying making the best of what we have, you know. Um, so that's my Black joy, is just connecting to people and stuff. Yeah. So
Thank you. I have one more question, and anyone can answer. You don't have to. What does showing up for yourself daily look like?
Oh, I can start with that one. Showing up for myself daily is taking a moment in the morning to honor God, and really just pray and surrender my day. I think because I have very long days, it's hard for me to kind of take time just to go and be by myself for a second and kind of regroup. But I think that my morning routine is very healthy for me, as well as my evening routine. So I think it's just kind of having routines for yourself to honor your day, express gratitude, be present with myself. And then at nighttime, I'm always writing or just laying down and like reflecting on my day, like stop. I'm not on my phone scrolling on TikTok for a second, you know what I'm saying? And just taking time just to be super present with myself. That's how I show up for myself. Going walking as well, just honoring whatever I feel, in each day.
Anyone else? Symee, Dr. Callie?
well, I'm always having stuff to read that I really enjoy, that resonate with me. And that is something that I read from Dr. John Henry Clark some years ago. And again, this is when I was on um, still on my family history journey, but I was new in it, and he I quote, "We have to find that compass that we can use to locate ourselves on the map of human geography. We must find that clock that tells us our special time of day. We must know what history is supposed to do for you. History have the function of your watch. It divides up time and tell you where you are. It gives you a general idea of how much time you have to get to where you have to go. History is a kind of guide and stimulant. You need a sense of direction, a definition of yourself, and you need to know your relationship to history and how your people relates to the history of the world. Yeah. So I always think of that when I'm doing something, and it's like, yeah, there's a big world out there, and somehow we are connected to it, but we got to first understand you know, that we are African people. You know, some people, you know, we're African and we're in the wrong place. You know, the food that we're eating, the clothes that we're wearing, it's not really us. But, you know, here we are. Make the best of it. Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
mhm.
Symee, did you want to say something on that or?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that for me, it's more so when I'm doing so, because I'm really artsy, when I'm doing something creative or when I finish a project, that makes me feel the most joy, or when I know I've completed something, especially a long painting process, because sometimes it takes hours to paint something. But once you finished it and then you look at it for a long time and you're like, I did that. Like that is just a really nice.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate this, ladies. Appreciate you all for sharing. This is a wealth of knowledge and it's inside of my soul and I can feel it and it's helping me. And I just want to leave something personally that I learned watching Dr. It was a video, YouTube video, and it's going to be in one of the resources. Dr. Anita Phillips, reading her book, The Healing Garden, and she was on Lisa, I hope I'm saying her name right, Lisa Bilyeu, Bilyeu. She was on her talk show and she said something that was so interesting to me and it stuck with me. And she said that if one is not feeling strong and healthy on the inside, it's nearly impossible to crush your goals and dreams. And that stuck with me. And then as some say nowadays, don't let it affect the bag. And I keep telling myself when I come up into a roadblock, when I'm working on my business or something, I think about that. And everything that you all said tonight was everything that the journey that I've been walking on. And it's been really helpful. So thank you for sharing this tonight. I appreciate you all.
Yes.
And I'm going to pass it to Lavasha. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what it
Yes.
kicked me out. And then, is there any questions from anybody before we close out? I didn't know if anybody had any questions for any of the panelists.
And if they do, you can just say them.
Yeah, you can just come off mute.
I have a question. I'll start with a question that I'm so tired. I was like, I'm not going to ask. But the question is, we talk a lot about trauma and the pain of things, what we're suffering. And toward the end of this discussion, we kind of started, to talk about the joy and the healing. What is it as a practice? Like if there were, I guess, anything that is unrealized at this point, a quote that always sticks in my mind is, and I'm paraphrasing because I can never remember quotes, is that what is one thing that you would not want left undone if, today was your last day? So kind of thinking about that in connection to joy or something that we often kind of put back on the back burner because joy can be in increments, I guess is my point. And kind of what is that for you, for any of you, that one thing, that you wouldn't want to put off any longer that would bring you joy?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, I would say that's such a deep question, a loaded question. I feel like because there's a lot of things I'm trying to fully experience while I'm here still as a human. I would say was one thing. I would say I would stop doubting myself and really live liberated and free. I feel like sometimes like imposter syndrome is really real. And because I'm always heads down doing so many things, like I often don't just stop and appreciate all that I do and who I am because I'm a really good person, for real. Like it's not a flex, which is that is my flex. So yeah, I would say yeah. Before I transition, I want to fully just own who I am and love every single inch. I'm close, but I still got some work to do for sure. So, but I'm also proud of how far I've came as well. So, yeah, that would be for me.
You got a list, and it's not one. You keep going.
I think, something that I'd really want to do before is more so be liberated from all the things society puts on you. Like, there's standards like, oh, you need to be married by so and so, or you need to have this accomplished by so and so. I think for me is I just like to just sit there and just be, and just be, in the moment. And I'd like to sorry, family. And then I kind of just like to just sit and watch the sunset and just be like, this is all I did, I did all this work and did all this stuff. And that's great, but I just want to be known, like spiritually know that like I did everything possible, I helped as many people as I could. I did everything God asked me or whoever you believe in, but that God asked me to do and just be present. I think that's definitely my mind.
Yeah. I'm not sure what my joy would be because I'm still, I'm from the baby boomers generation and I have been retired and I've been working on some stuff to have some time away from the winters. That's my joy. It's not being able to experience snow anymore, you know? That's that's one of those things that I just takes me for a loop every time it comes. So anyway, that's about the only thing I can think of.
Callie, I'm gonna bust
Yeah.
you out. Just because I've known Callie, she's like has been a very, very good friend of mine for a long time. And Callie is a firecracker, talking all softly and whatnot on this call. You are very, she lives, I think, now. Like you're a very in the now person. You asked Callie to send you something, she got it there 2 seconds ago. You know, and I just want to say a piece about this joy is that it's, I heard people talking a lot about kind of, which is fine, the gardening and doing stuff that does not include people, but part of the joy too, and I just want to say to you, is the friendships and the social
Yeah.
connection
Yeah.
of people who walk along with you
Mhm.
and pour into you. And so
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I just got to
Yeah.
because I just love you. And that's part of my
Thank-
joy.
And that goes back and forth. I love you too. Yeah. Yeah. The young folks, I do hope and pray that you take finding who you are, because if you don't, they're going to tell you, other people's going to tell you. I just want to ask a question. Who in the group have been doing research on your family, or somebody in your family, or how far back can you go at this point in your life?
I don't know how far back I can go, but I know for sure that I knew my great grandmother, and then she passed, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. And I had actually met her while she was still alive. And my grandma is still
Okay.
here. And then my grandfather, who did pass away.
Okay. When you get some time, it would be good to just talk to her about her childhood and find out, where she lived, because getting information helps once they're not around and you have to go and if this is the desire, you have to go to the courthouse and find records. You have to go dig through the, you know, different places, the census. Again, one of the things that I have seen over the years is that you have to be very careful when you're looking for information, that you be patient, because the information is there and everybody else can piece their life together and their journey and their lineage, and we can do the same thing. So, but while your grandmother is living, talk to her. Find out where did she go to school? How did she like school? You know, what was who talk to her about her mother, you know, find out about your great grandmother. She would know. Um, and just, you know, keep that in your heart, because one day you want to pass that information down to another generation. They say the first generation know, and the second generation for, you know, kind of forget. You know, we don't want to forget who we are and what our people have done for us. And we can start with our family first, type thing, you know? So I don't know anybody else.
So I have like a question for you. So my mom was adopted. So I do
Uh-huh.
know on my dad's side, I do know
Mm-hmm.
a lot of our heritage. My great grandfather's still living in Mississippi, so going down there a couple times a year, I've learned so much about that side. But I guess for people who like, I took an ancestry test, like, so I kind of know the people on my mother's side, but like, there's not any way of like truly like knowing the details because I mean, it was kind of
Mm-hmm.
like she had a white mother who couldn't have her type of thing. So it's like, I guess what would you recommend for someone like me who's trying to understand the full picture, but it's kind of hard because my mom, her record is really like I feel like we're a first generation family. If so.
Okay. Um, you said you took a test, a DNA test, or
Yeah,
no?
on Ancestry.com. So I'm able to see a couple of
Okay.
people, but it's not like they're not like approachable people. So like you can kind of see, but like they're not people that like want to talk to us type of thing. It's kind of weird.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know, knowing your history is not necessarily knowing them physically, you
Mhm.
know. There's a lot of people on that chart with my family. I don't even want to be in the same city with it. Okay. So it's just to look and know that they have the same DNA, or that's your family. It doesn't necessarily have to be they in love with you, because family members, you know, through all of our dysfunction stuff as a family, but sometimes we don't like each other. Okay, we disrespect each other. Some, you know, we're divided by different things. Either we divided by politics, or we divided by um, you know, or a lifestyle or whatever, but it's always something friction. So that's fine, let that be. But if you can find out information, just keep it and treasure it, because that is a part of you, regardless of who they are and what and how they are. They are part of you, you know. So you know, I have some cousins. It's like, you know, because at one point, my family was meeting every other year, and we was doing um, family reunions. Have you guys been to a family reunion? They are nice. You know, sometimes you're gonna run across some people, but I would say 25 people on that we would see are gone now. But it's a joy just knowing that we spend time with them. Like, I'm sure when your grandfather passed, you're going to think about all of the times that you spend with him. Okay. The other people that's not in your life, so be it. Have you tried 23andMe? That would tell you some other relatives if they have
I think
signed
she
up.
did. Yeah,
Have
no,
you?
I think she did. I think I just am always trying to look at like the big picture, right? And I think it's just like it's very unfortunate for people like me and like my mom who, you really can't go back and really know. I mean, you can get these tests done and kind of see, but like I'm such a like personalized person that it kind of sucks sometimes. But thank you for the wisdom. I appreciate it.
Callie, what is that
Um,
there that now see my my perspective is always from crime shows because I'm watching crime shows all the time. But I forget what it's called, but it's some process of using DNA because they've been doing it for criminology to
Right.
find the direct relatives of the people. So, like for example, if you were adopted, or you said your mom was adopted, where because they were looking for a particular criminal, right? They were able to gather this DNA. I forget what you call it, like a DNA makeup, and then say that okay, this person, only had 3 sons, so they have narrowed it down to 3 suspects. So what I'm saying is the same in case of now, and I forget what it's called. It's some new technology. I don't
It's a
know how
new,
expensive it is.
I don't
Yeah, to
know.
be able to
Yeah.
single out kind of detective work to find out, okay, we know
Yeah.
she existed and we know that she had a child and that the hospitals had recorded, even
Mm-hmm.
if the records closed, to kind of what you call it,
Mm-hmm.
reverse. Yeah. I
Yeah.
forgot. I wish I knew what it was called. You know
Yeah.
what I'm
With
talking
the
about?
DNA, the three things that I know about the DNA as we go through, because a lot of times people said, "Oh no, I don't want to do the DNA because, they can take my test and do whatever." Um, but they have a medical DNA and they have the crime one and the genetic one, and I don't know about the one because I haven't Dr. Which I like about African ancestry is because um, it was started back in 2003 when the burial grounds in Manhattan. There was a skyscraper that was going up, and there was some uh, um, construction workers. And you know how they dig up the ground, to get ready for this big building. And they dug up some skeletons. And there was a brother on site, and the brother knew that in our history, they bury us anywhere in a regular burial grounds, funeral, the what you call a cemetery. We over in the corner someplace, or we are, you know, not taken care of in the cemetery. And so they told the people in the town in New York, that town, ain't that something, town? They in New York, they said, went to the community, hey, there's some skeletons up there over there, and um, the people that was doing the groundwork and digging the grounds, they didn't want to stop. And so after a period of time, they did. And they took the DNA from the remainders of the skeletons. You can get DNA from if you deceased, you can get it from your bones, or you can get it from your teeth. Okay. And so they did send some people to Africa to find out which, ethnic group in which country these people was ancestors came from. But there's always a way to find out whatever. There's a saying too that there's no questions with no answers without, how is it? No questions without answers. Okay, no problems. There's always an answer. I don't care. You just got to figure it out. There's always an answer to something. And so just don't give up. Just keep going, and and the ancestors are send you a little seed for you to keep going, make your day. Like the person that did my mouth today is from Cameroon. Okay. From this, and I was thinking she could be a relative of mine, or she could be related. But hey, this is where we are. But
Thank you for that. That's quotable, what you just said. No, don't apologize. I wanted to ask
okay.
Sierra, can you all hear me? Okay, I wanted to ask Sierra to talk a little bit more about like your businesses and what you're doing today. Like, what is Heal Minneapolis? What is the Zen Band? Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So it'll be 7 years in January, which is crazy. But almost 7 years ago, I started the Zen Bin, and we started out just doing pop-ups across the city, creating safe spaces for people to do trauma healing circles, yoga, meditation, and it's kind of manifested into us having our own space called Zen Bin and Holy Ground. Holy Ground, or excuse me, Holy Ground and Heal. Holy Ground is our donation-based wellness center. It's located on Penn and Broadway, and we offer donation-based yoga classes, meditation, acupuncture, trauma healing circles, and some fun fitness classes. And then Heal is our plant-based cafe that kind of helps us keep Holy Ground up and running. So it's a plant-based cafe. It also has some herbs in there, about 140 different herbs, and we're just there to help people kind of learn how to holistically take care of themselves. So if you have high blood pressure, there's an herb for that. You have diabetes, there's herb and proper nutrition for that. So yeah, kind of on the north side, our ministry is just to help bridge accessibility and affordability for this wellness desert and food desert. There's not anything really to eat over north except for fried chicken and McDonald's and stuff like that. So I'm creating something for people to get some fresh smoothies and juices, but then also have an active place to go practice some of those grounding practices and spiritual practices and community. That's pretty cool too.
Okay.
And
you over
really good
north?
mushroom tacos.
Yes, for sure. Yes, we're over north. Heal is on 42nd and Lindale, and then Holy Ground is on Penn and Broadway.
I just want to say that Sierra, because my daughters and I, we went there for our book club meeting like 2 Saturdays ago, and they made the best tacos. And I had some type of the bowl, I can't remember what the bowl was called, but then we had some smoothies. But today I had some of that lion's mane tea, and it just relaxed me. I said, you know what? I'm gonna make my tea, and I'm just gonna relax today. It's about health and healing, and that's what I'm gonna do with that whole aura to be around me. So I just want to say thank you for all your herbs. I have a cabinet full of them. They are so helpful.
Yay,
You help me
good.
with my chronic pain in my back. I'm like, hold on, wait a minute, what? So
Yeah,
I just want to say
Uh,
I appreciate you for that. It's
for
really
sure.
beneficial. Thank you.
Of course, thank you for sliding.
yeah.
Yes, always. Be back
For
up there to
sure.
get those mushrooms.
For sure, come anytime.
Yeah.
All righty. I don't see any more questions in the chat, and I can't see the Q&A. So
There
I'm gonna
was
assume
a question
we
that
do.
said, yeah, from in the chat. I was just trying to answer some of it, that we'll be sharing a resource list as well, but they were asking, is there a website to search your history? So we have 2 that are listed on the resource list that are about, again, African ancestry, which Callie mentioned, and 23 and Me. And then there's quite a
Mhm.
few.
It's quite a few. I don't have in the last the African American genealogy. Um, they have conferences in like October, whatever. There's a lot of stuff going, but mostly on the East Coast. I would say to Google, because there's a lot of things that's happening out there in that area. To Google it. I'm trying to think of there's a lot of books. There's a book called Black Roots, and um, I'm not sure if there's anything newer, but his name is Tony Burrell, Burroughs, and His book is a book that helps guide you through the brick wall, if you will. The brick wall is something most people call, when they're doing their research, is when there's like no answers. There's nothing there. You can't figure it out. A lot of times, because you have to be very analytical in terms of understanding what you're dealing with. Like my great great grandfather, who was 8 years old in the census, he was the last one enslaved. And I keep thinking, how can an 8-year-old get here from Africa? Either they stole him, they captured him, his mother could have been pregnated at the time that she came, or she met her Nigerian husband, or a daddy, the baby's daddy. I'm like, so that's how I was, you have to say, okay, how can this happen? Because we're in a strange place to try to unravel all of the things that was done, you know, um, because we don't have those kind of tendencies, or we don't have that DNA in us to murder people. I just found out something called the Kool-Aid, the devil's Kool-Aid. Have anybody ever heard of that? The devil's Kool-Aid. Let me see. It's how they just killed people because the population, it was in, I think, Arkansas,
I'll find
the
it.
Devil's Punch Bowl. Yes. I had never heard of that until just but maybe about a year ago. And it was just a big ditch, and the ditch had a lot of trees. It was a big hole. And they didn't, the white people in the neighborhood didn't like the fact that there was a lot of Black folks in their town. And so they um, somehow got the people to go there, and somehow it was just tragic. It was hard to listen to it because I had never heard of it, and it was so mean and treacherous. So I didn't really go see it. But anyway,
I think
the
I did
devil.
hear about
Oh
that.
yes, okay.
Yeah.
Ah, great, great.
They tricked them to go to
Yes.
work there or something. Like they tricked them to come there to go to work, and then they would murder them.
And they were kids, women,
Yeah, it
everything,
was
and
bad.
they just disappeared. They
They
went
said
down
there
in
was a
that
lot
hole.
of energy still around there. It's a lot of energy still around there. And they said it was like the hole was like
Yes,
deep, 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 deep. So that
yes,
I did hear about
yes,
that.
yeah. Did you hear about that? Did you
Yeah,
say?
I seen it. I can't remember. I seen that actually months ago. I heard about that. I don't know if it was on Discovery. I can't remember what it was, but I seen that. I'm like,
Oh my God.
I couldn't even finish watching. I had to stop.
I know it.
It was
I
deep
know.
and
Yeah,
evil and cruel and
yeah,
mean.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just wanted to say, I know it's, getting close to our time, but I did want to ask one last thing for all of you is, given our history, of where we are now, um, one thing that I take from like therapy, I was in therapy, had to go to therapy for a while. And one good thing that I guess that I took from it was kind of, it was cognitive behavioral therapy. And the thing that it taught me, I guess the biggest thing in my head was the practice of things. Like, you've got a checklist. Either you're doing something or you ain't. Either you're gonna do it or you're not.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so when we again are thinking about trauma and when we're traumatized and the things that we experience, what is it that you all do when you are triggered, for example, about something, to practice health and healing in that moment?
I practice just mindful breath and tapping. So when I start to get anxious or I'm just starting to feel triggered, I have like tapping points. So I might just go like this and rub my fingers here, or just kind of like fingers, and that's like a nervous system regulator. That has been super beneficial for me. But then also just breaths. I always am like quick to close my eyes, take a couple breaths, and just bring myself to that present moment versus that emotion.
Mhm. Mhm.
I would say for me, when I get triggered, if you notice our ancestors, when they were in the cotton field, they would sing. Like they would have songs that they would sing. And I catch myself doing that. I'm like, oh, thank you, Lord. Because and that calms me down. I just run to my own song and
Yeah.
I sing praises
Yeah.
up to the Lord. And that helps me in that moment to keep me from,
Yeah.
from losing it. But yeah, I sing praises.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then sometimes when it's really heightened, I'm like, hold on, that was trying to trick me. I run to my prayer closet and shut the door back. I'm like, I'm not coming out until so that's what I do.
Mhm.
I do more of like, since I have nails or even on my hand, I'll like brush my arm like up and down, for like a sensory point. I'll also like tap on something. I've been known to like draw or fidget with stuff.
Yeah. Mm. There's a certain scripture that I like to read sometimes when I'm not feeling um and when it's getting ready to be triggered and things are just I'm not feeling good inside. And it's Proverb 1:7, and it says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. And when I hear that or when I read that, I always think of, and it usually happens, whatever is going on and I need some guidance and I ask for, some, uh, it comes. And I really am amazed, um, you know, that there's another force out there, something out there that helps to help with the healing, you know. Um, I don't know. That was a good question. I don't know what else is. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
I think that we're going to put up some resources um, for everybody.
Okay, give me just a minute.
No problem.
Find the tab.
All right.
I want to thank everybody for being here tonight as well. I really appreciated this conversation. This is something I'm going to have to go back and watch myself to really reflect, but I really appreciate all of you being here. So thank you.
Thank you. It was
No,
good.
thank you for inviting us.
Yes. Thank you. Mhm.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty, here are some resources. Some of them are community resources, such as the Zen Bin. Some are books, some are video clips, or just other health and healing resources that you all can access. And this also will be sent out in the follow-up email
Okay.
as well.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
So I'm gonna leave it up
Nice.
for about 20 seconds or so.
Okay.
Thank you for attending. Alrighty, so this is our contact info for our team. I believe we're all present here tonight. Danielle, myself, Duaba, Shireen, Olivia, and then our leader, Rapah, who's the leader of Nexus. If you all need to access us or have any questions, feel free to contact us through our email. And then we also have a post-session survey that we are going to put in the chat, and then it can also be accessed in that follow-up email as well. So we really appreciate any feedback that you all give us so that we can continue to improve our sessions. So thank you.